Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you wanted to say no, but you found yourself saying yes? Or have you walked away from a conversation thinking, ugh, I wish I would have done something differently. I wish I would have spoken up for myself. Or are you the person that everyone depends on? Because you always say yes, you're always available, you always show up, and you often put others before yourself. Or are you this person who is consistently calling to check up on other people, but they are not doing the same for you? Feeling a little resentful? I wonder why. The problem is not because you're too kind or too compassionate or that you love people too much. The problem is simply that you have not learned the importance of boundaries. And I want to change all of that for you today. Not by giving you a 5-step how-to-do rule, none of that. I want to help you understand that boundaries are a perspective of psychology, neuroscience, human behavior, and personal transformation. Because once you understand why boundaries matter, they no longer become something that you should do. They then become something that you are very naturally wanting to practice every single day. So by the end of this video, my hope is that you'll understand that boundaries are not selfish, why they are essential in our emotional health, why our brains tend to resist them, and how learning to establish boundaries can not only improve and transform your relationships, but also the way you look at life in general. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Rory, spiritual coach and a manifestation mentor. I'm going to start by asking one very important question. What is a boundary? Now, if I were to ask 10 people this question, I would probably receive a handful of different answers. Some think boundaries are a wall, an ultimatum, a form of saying no. While some of these do hold some of the truth, none of them actually explain what a healthy boundary is. A healthy boundary is a limit that protects your physical, your mental, your emotional, your rational, your financial, and your spiritual well-being. Notice something different? A boundary is not about controlling another person at all. It's actually about taking responsibility of your own behavior. There's a huge difference there, right? So controlling somebody else's behavior sounds like, stop yelling at me. And when you take responsibility for your own actions, for your own behavior, you would say, if you're going to continue yelling at me, I'm going to have to step away from this conversation until we can talk like adults. See the difference there? One person is trying to control the other person, and the other person is taking responsibility for their own actions. Something really important to understand is that healthy boundaries do not demand. They communicate. And that's huge, right? Healthy boundaries will never manipulate, ever. They bring clarity. And healthy boundaries are not punishments at all. They are an enormous act of self-love and respect. This is why setting boundaries is so important. They return the focus to the one thing that you actually have control over. Your very own actions. That's it. You only have control over yourself. My favorite way to explain healthy boundaries is to look at nature. Everything healthy has boundaries. Nature has boundaries, our skin has boundaries, right? So we have cells that have membranes, and the membranes control what comes in and what stays. And if those boundaries are crossed, then something would be wrong, right? Our cells would not be working properly. Our home, it has boundaries. There's doors, locks, and windows. It stops people from entering and leaving whenever they please, right? It's not because we hate people or you don't like to be social. It's because you're protecting your space. You don't want people just walking in your home, eating your food, sleeping in your bed, wearing your shoes, wearing your clothes, wearing your jewelry, whatever, and then leaving, right? Because if that happened, most of us would recognize that something is wrong. Yet most people go their entire life living just like this. They allow criticism without limits. They are so afraid of conflict that they allow this criticism because they don't want the conflict. They answer work emails on off hours. They show up work early. They're always volunteering for things or putting people in front of you. They become everyone's therapists while ignoring their own problems. They consistently sacrifice their own peace to preserve somebody else's comfort. I mean, if this sounds like you, this video is exactly for you. So you're in exactly the right place. Eventually, over time, what's going to happen is, why am I so exhausted? right? And it's going to be because you're giving away all of your energy, or you're holding on to so much negative energy from what comes with not having boundaries. Sometimes it's that you've never learned where to say no and where those boundaries need to go. Boundaries are not just for your friends or coworkers. Boundaries are for everyone, family included. Boundaries help us recognize that we're responsible for our own thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors, and the choices that we make on a daily basis. And we are not responsible for anybody else's behavior. We are not. That is not our responsibility. The realization of that alone is a beautiful, incredible thing. So here's where things get really interesting. If emotional boundaries are so healthy, then why do people struggle with them? And the answer is long before adulthood. It all begins in childhood. As children, we're not learning mathematics or languages. We're learning about what works around us. We're learning about relationships. We're learning about if our emotions are valid or not, if we are allowed to speak about our emotions or not, what is allowed and what is not, what's tolerated and what is not tolerated. So these experiences alone will shape a child's belief about themselves and other people. So let's say you had a caregiver who is extremely attentive, who is always there, open to hear your emotions and what you need, fulfilled your needs. You are able to speak freely about how you felt. You're allowed to say no. The odds of you understanding and setting boundaries are high. Unfortunately, many people had different experiences. They were often taught that if they voiced their opinions, it was criticized. If they were too emotional, it was criticized. If they said no, they felt guilty. And unfortunately, a lot of children understood that the way they were able to receive love is only through an achievement or some type of obedience, right? So children naturally adapt to the environments that they're in. A child who learns that saying no will create conflict will eventually consistently say yes over time. And a child who learns that everybody else's emotions dependent on them will eventually neglect their own emotions to make sure everybody else is feeling good. These adaptations are very intelligent. They help children survive emotionally in environments that they're given. So the problem here is that survival strategies don't always become healthy relationship strategies, right? They don't. Unfortunately, the people pleasing that protects you 10 years ago is quietly exhausting you now at 40. The conflict avoidance that helps you have peace in your family is now preventing you from having this type of conversation with like your family, your husband, right? You're struggling to have honest conversations in your marriage. The perfectionism that once earned approval may now leave you believing that nothing is worth it. So what happens is you tend to put yourself behind everybody else because you are now a people pleaser, because you were never taught that boundaries are so important and truly do help create who you are and the self-love, the self-respect from yourself and from others. Setting boundaries is so important. It may seem like a scary thing to do, but once you do it, you'd be amazed how much self-respect you have for yourself and how much self-respect you command from others. So now that we understand what a boundary is, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the nervous system and the brain and how they work together to make setting boundaries so difficult. So why is it that your palms sweat when you go to send a simple text? Or you're hearing the same conversation in your head over and over again before you finally say something? Or more importantly, why do we feel guilt for saying no, for protecting our own peace? Here it is. The answer lies here. We have been taught that our brain is there to keep us happy. And that is not true at all. Our brain is wired to keep us alive. Our brain is wired consistently on protection mode. From an evolutionary perspective, survival came first. If our ancestors couldn't survive long enough to reproduce, happiness would not matter, right? Because of that, the history of the brain has developed consistently scanning the environment to make sure it's safe. It's always looking for threats. And by the way, most of this will just naturally happen automatically. You're not consciously deciding to evaluate every interaction. Your brain is doing it for you. So this is one of my favorite studies. Researchers have found that your brain will predict from past experiences. So your brain's going to do this. Instead of looking at the situation as a whole, it's going to say, oh, based on past experiences, what is the most likely thing to happen next? which then influences your body's response. So let's take somebody who was bitten by a dog as a child. They are going to probably be anxious and fearful every single time they see a dog. And let's say they are in front of a really kind, gentle dog, a nice dog that's not going to bite them, but their brain is literally connecting that dog with danger. So something really important to remember is that your brain does not only remember these experiences, they learn from them. So it begins to start making predictions. Every single time it sees a dog, you become fearful, you become anxious. And these predictions over time will influence your reactions to the original situation that has ended a long time ago. So you see what happens there is your brain is always in protection mode. It's there to keep you alive. So you got bit by a dog as a child, it created in your brain that time that dogs are dangerous. So every time you see a dog, you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's dangerous. Because that's all your brain knows, and it's in protection mode. That's one reason why two people can have the same conversation but feel completely differently. So one person would say, I'm not available tonight, and feel great. The other person is having severe anxiety but use the same words, I'm not available tonight. And what this means is same conversation, same answer, completely different nervous systems. Those words were identical, right? But your nervous systems are completely different. Neither of these people are crazy at all. They're operating from different learning histories. This is why your nervous system plays a huge role in your everyday decision making. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between physical and social threats. This is one of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience. Researchers have discovered that over the years, survival depended on your community, right? The social connection. And if you were rejected by, let's say, your tribe, that means you had a loss of food, shelter, resources, right? So our brains evolved to understand and recognize that social connection is super important. That's why, let's say, like you got into an argument with your friend and it felt like the end of the world, right? Being in an argument with your friend is registered in your brain like being abandoned in the wilderness. It feels a threat, which then causes your body to react. You may feel your hands starting to sweat, your heart beats a little bit faster, you may not feel very good, you start to feel anxious, you have an urge to avoid a serious conversation. These reactions are not proving that boundaries are not good. What this is telling you is that your nervous system needs to be recalibrated. And the good news is that your nervous system is consistently changing. With repeated experiences of setting healthy boundaries and seeing the outcome as manageable, those intense reactions become less overwhelming over time because what you're doing is you're training your brain with a new experience. I'm gonna nerd out here because I love this stuff. One of the most exciting things about neuroscience is called neuroplasticity. And I spoke about this in one of my previous videos on your subconscious mind. So I'm gonna define neuroplasticity for you. Neuroplasticity means your brain can strengthen existing neural pathways, weaken pathways that are used much less, and form new connections through learning and repeating experiences. So this is also how you rewire your subconscious mind. So let's say driving for experience. When we first start driving, we literally question everything. Where's the brake? Where's the gas? Is my turn signal on? Where do I go? Am I in my lane? How do I do this? Right? We're consistently like checking and looking and thinking about having to do every move. With practice and over time, you don't think about it anymore. You turn that turn signal on when you got to turn, you know where to brake, you know where to gas, right? So over time, your brain starts to develop different habits through experiences. People pleasing is a practice. You don't just wake up and decide, I'm going to say yes to everything today. No, you are consistently doing that at childhood, and you carry that habit with you throughout your entire life. People apologize all the time. How many of you are apologizing to everything? Oh, sorry. For what? Oh, sorry about that. For what? Like, what did you do? You were walking in front of me. You're allowed to walk in front of me. The word I'm sorry is used so often that unfortunately the meaning and passion behind it is starting to disappear. Stop apologizing for things you do not need to apologize for. The I'm sorry is a habit. It naturally comes out of your mouth. This happens to me all the time. Let's say I wanted to get down an aisle and somebody's just like looking through something and I say, excuse me, and they say, oh, sorry. My first response is, there's nothing to apologize for. But that's how our brains are wired, right? It's self-abandonment. And you've practiced that by becoming a people person. It's all wired together, okay? Which also means good news. Self-respect can also be practiced. A healthy communication can also be practiced. Boundaries can be placed and practiced. So here's where I want to connect today's conversation with something I'm very passionate about and speak often about, the subconscious mind. People truly believe that they can just do affirmations and they'll reprogram their subconscious mind. While affirmations are beneficial, they are definitely not the only thing you need to reprogram your subconscious mind. Okay, so let's just say, well, first of all, your subconscious mind is programmed by your experiences and the way you handle these experiences. Okay, so let's just say you are saying, I'm deeply worthy every single morning in the mirror. But then you go out throughout your day and completely contradict that. You allow people to step over you, to talk over you, you make yourself uncomfortable to make other people comfortable. So what you're doing here is you're contradicting what you're saying and how you're behaving. So you're confusing your brain. And what your brain is going to go directly to is your behavior, not your words. It's going to remember from past experiences. So it's going to always be the behavior. Okay, your actions are powerful, powerful teachers. Every repeated behavior becomes evidence. Your brain then asks, what does this repetition do? You're repetitively abandoning yourself. Your brain's going to expect that from you, expect that pattern. But if you're often putting yourself first, saying no to things and you're comfortable with it, your brain is going to expect that as well. It's going to learn that pattern. This is why lasting transformation isn't built by just changing your thoughts. It's strengthened by changing the patterns that you repeat. Thoughts matter, beliefs matter, and behavior reinforces these beliefs. You can reprogram your subconscious mind. It is so possible. I made a video of it. Please go check it out. It is so powerful and it gives you control over your own life again. So when your actions and your values begin to work together instead of completely the opposite direction, everything becomes more sustainable. So here's something I tell my clients all the time. If something feels uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. So do not label uncomfort with wrong. So when you start to set boundaries for yourself, it's going to become unfamiliar, which is uncomfortable, which then leads to feeling, is this wrong, right? Of course it's not wrong. Your first healthy boundary that you set may feel uncomfortable. The second one may feel awkward, and the third may even make you feel guilty. That doesn't automatically mean that you made the wrong decision. It simply means that your brain is practicing a new pattern, okay? So think back to a new skill, whether it's driving or exercising, or maybe even speaking in public, maybe even learning a new language. The beginning feels super uncomfortable. Right? It's like hard, it's stressful, you gotta put a lot of work in it, some people give up. With practice, everything changes. Confidence grows. You become a pro at whatever it is you're trying to learn. The same process happens with boundaries. So each respectful conversation, each honest no, each time you choose not to overextend yourself, you are teaching your brain something new. I can protect my peace without abandoning my compassion. So you're teaching your brain that these boundaries are normal and safe. And eventually what happens is over time, this becomes so natural. Not because conversations stage, but because you have changed. The conversations haven't changed, situations haven't changed, your friends haven't changed, you have changed. There's one remarkable aspect of the human brain. It is consistently learning from the life that you live. Again, I spoke about this in the video I made of the subconscious mind. Your brain is consistently learning from the experiences, your everyday life. Every day, through your choices, your relationships, your habits, you are teaching your brain who you are becoming. You have a full power of teaching your brain who you are becoming. You can train your brain to wire the way you want to live your life every single day. And every healthy boundary is a lesson in self-respect. So now that we understand how the nervous system is tied into the brain, we are going to discover where these patterns actually come from. So why is it that one person can say no thank you calmly and the other person is feeling physically sick? So over time, researchers have realized that your patterns in life are learned way before we become adults, okay? Everything stems at childhood. Our earliest relationships shape the way we understand ourselves, others, and the world around us. So, as children, our caregivers unfortunately are not only our food and shelter providers, they're also our teachers. Without ever consciously knowing it, they're teaching us all about relationships. Children will consistently ask questions that they don't have words for yet, such as, is this safe? Can I respond this way without being punished? Can I make a mistake? Will you still love me? Can I disagree without losing this connection? So, those answers to these questions become the foundation for many adult relationships. This is one of the ideas behind the attachment theory, okay? So, a well established connection while you're a child with a caregiver and child will create a secure attachments type in adulthood. Meaning, if you felt safe and secure as a child, you were openly welcome to speak about your emotions. They were absorbed, they were taken in, they were cared for. Your opinion was valued as a child. Your emotions were valued and welcomed. The odds of you becoming secure in your relationships are very high. So the opposite can also happen. If your caregiver was absent or was fluctuating with the love that you provided, the odds of you developing an attachment style, more of an abandonment, right? So you're afraid to be abandoned, which makes you then grab on to the person you're in this relationship with. It's because you have this fear of being abandoned, and that was all created when you were a child. Your caregivers, unfortunately, have a very strong influence on how you handle relationships as an adult. Okay? Researchers generally describes several common attachment patterns. These not labeled for life sentences because you could change your attachment style, but this is what you will automatically is embedded in you as a child, and this is how you will behave as an adult. I made a video about attachment styles, the 4 attachment styles, asking which one you are. Go back and check it out. It's really important, and also will answer a lot of questions. If you feel anxious in a relationship, there's a deep-rooted reason why, okay? And I'm going to ask you this one thing. Do not blame your caregiver for how you are behaving now. You must take full responsibility of your actions, especially as an adult. Okay? It's just time for you to dig deeper in there and think about what you can change to change your attachment style. Someone with a more attachment style often will believe that their communication is heard, that their needs are met, and that they can confidently maintain a healthy relationship. Somebody with a different attachment style, let's say an anxious attachment or avoidant attachment, they experience negative reactions in relationships as children. As I just spoke about, if your caregiver was inconsistent, sometimes home, sometimes not home, when they are home, you weren't priority, you're probably going to develop a anxious attachment style. It's a fear of being abandoned. Now, the thing really important to learn here is that these patterns are not permanent. Remember, your brain can be taught over and over again. You can rewire your brain through your beliefs, your actions, your habits, who you are around, what you're reading, what you're seeing, what you're thinking, what you're listening to on a daily basis, okay? Our brains are sponges. Your brains can learn new patterns. Healthy relationships can teach really good new experiences for your brain. Healthy relationships can rewire your brain. And these boundaries that you're going to set for yourself today are one of the best, healthiest patterns for your brain to learn. So let's talk about people pleasing, because I feel like a lot of people have a misunderstanding about what exactly people pleasing is and where it stems from. So people actually describe themselves as people pleasers because they claim it's part of their identity. Well, this is not true at all. People have developed this people pleasing skill because it is a coping strategy. Okay, so some people learn early in life that to reduce conflict, all they have to do is say yes. Or to get other people's approval, you need to say yes or always be available. While others discovered that being the easy child is simply a way to get praised or feel stability. Okay, those strategies over time create your environment. And the problem there they begin to become automatic. So let's say that somebody asked you to do something and you automatically said yes without even thinking about it. And then you get home to realize that you've overextended yourself. Why? Well, it's because your response wasn't intentional, it was habitual. You created this habit for yourself to become a people pleaser. People pleasing often disconnects us from what's important in our lives, right? So people don't even ask, what do I need? When we spend years focusing primarily on other people's needs, we tend to neglect ourselves. It's just what happens. We create that habit to neglect ourselves and put other people before us. And over time, this will lead to exhaustion, burnout, resentment, and in relationships where you find yourself giving more than you're receiving, you are going to be receiving a lack of appreciation for all the things that you do. One of the biggest lessons I truly hope that you get from this and remember is just because you feel guilty for setting a boundary does not mean that it's wrong. Remember, our bodies are adapted to same patterns. And if you start to break this habit, it's going to feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, which then will result in maybe you feeling guilty or thinking maybe this is not the right path. It is the right path. It's just your brain experiencing a different pattern. Okay, so when you set these boundaries, it's going to be awkward at first. The first time you say no, your body may react strongly. Not necessarily because you've done something harmful, but because you've interrupted a familiar pattern. So think of somebody who's beginning physical therapy after an injury. So using the muscles the same way that they're used to may become really uncomfortable at first. And that discomfort doesn't automatically mean that movement is bad. Okay. The same way in emotional discomfort. It doesn't mean that this is evidence of you making a bad decision. It just means that you're growing, and growth is uncomfortable, which is why you want to be uncomfortable. This is just a confirmation that you are growing. Many people believe that if you're compassionate, you cannot set boundaries. It has to be one or the other. Well, I'm here to tell you that is absolutely false. I am a very compassionate person. I remember coming home from the school bus when I was younger, crying because I saw some boy being bullied, and it broke my heart. I could not handle it. I came home, I told my parents to please take this feeling away from me. They said, you're compassionate, you're empathetic. It's a beautiful thing to have. And I begged them, please take it away. It was physically hurting me so much. So I not only had to learn how to protect my energy, but I learned about compassion. Okay, caring people can be compassionate and have strong boundaries. In fact, the healthiest, compassionate people require boundaries. Okay, because they have access to our energy all the time, if not. And that becomes so emotionally and physically exhausting. Imagine you're carrying a pitcher of water. Every person you meet asks for the glass of water, and you're so kind, you pour. Yet another one asks, and then another, and then another, and then another. Eventually, you have no more water in your pitcher. You didn't even get a glass. You have nothing else to give, not even to yourself. Okay, so healthy boundaries isn't about being selfish at all. It actually shows a lot of self-respect and a lot of self-worth. You have to give to yourself before you can give to others. There are going to be people out there who are going to be takers and receivers. Takers are going to take, and receivers are going to struggle to receive. Okay, you need to be a fine medium of both of them. You cannot continuously pour an empty pitcher, not for anybody, not for yourself, okay? Rest is not selfish. Recovery is not selfish. And protecting your emotional space and energy is absolutely not selfish at all. It's a beautiful representation of self-love and self-respect. Now, my clients struggle with this one, and I love talking about this one because I've experienced this myself, okay? So a lot of my clients are afraid to set these boundaries because they are afraid of the pushback or the rejection that they may receive. I'm gonna make myself very clear right here. If you are setting boundaries for yourself and you surround yourself with people that love and respect you, they will adhere to your boundaries. If they do not, then they don't respect you. And those people should not be in your life at all. Something I also want to mention here is you do not need to send everybody an email. I just put up boundaries, X, Y, and Z. That's not how it works. That's people pleasing. You're not pleasing other people by letting them know that you have boundaries. Wrong. What you do is you start taking action. Somebody asks you to do something, you know you don't want to do it, nor do you have the time or the energy to do it. So you start practicing that word. No, thank you. I don't have the time or space to do that today or ever, right? Whatever you feel. And so they'll say, oh, she's saying no to me. They may personally say, oh, is she mad at me? Am I doing something wrong? What's going on? Or they may say, okay, she's not available. No worries. And somebody who loves and respects you is going to do that. And they're also going to be really proud of you for setting that boundary. Because look, people know if you're a people pleaser or not. People will expect something from you because they know how you are going to respond. If you're a yes, 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 yes all the time, this is what they say. Oh, X, Y, and Z will do it. They always do it. They won't even look for another option because you are the only option because you've never said no. So if you're worried about disappointing other people, you're a people pleaser. Redirect that energy to yourself and understand this. If people do not respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. Do you want that type of person in your life? I didn't think so. So before you set your boundaries today, this is a step many, many people miss, and it's really important. So before you can honestly set and adhere to personal boundaries, you must recognize your values. So what is it that you value? What's important to you? Because your values is pretty much the underlining reason of your boundaries. Okay, so let's say that you value family time. You are probably going to protect that time, space, and energy that you're with your family. For example, let's say Sundays from noon till 6, you are unavailable and people know it because you're with your family, okay? Let's say you value rest. So you turn your phone on Do Not Disturb every night at 8 p.m. until 8 in the morning. That's a boundary, okay? So I actually just use that as my boundary as an example. I have very strong boundaries and everybody in my life is very aware of my strong boundaries. And if they cross them, I am very comfortable with communicating that with them. Okay, I'm not somebody who's going to cut them off immediately. If it's repetition, you're just showing me you don't respect me or my boundaries and you don't have a space in my life. Okay, so before you set these boundaries for yourself, you have to ask yourself specific questions. What kind of relationship do I want? What do I feel after spending time with this person? What habits do I need to break to become the person I'm trying to become? And what consistently takes me away from that person? Those answers become the foundation for healthy boundaries. So my phone goes on Do Not Disturb every evening at 8 o'clock until probably like 9 o'clock in the morning. It depends. I have a bedtime routine and I value my rest. I value my alone time and I value my quiet time. I spend all day working one-on-one with clients, learning, studying, communicating in my collective, my Soul Hub collective group. I am recording, I'm creating, I have dogs, I have a home to maintain. So when it comes to my space, time, and energy, you cannot reach me after 8 p.m. And if you need something, it'll wait until the morning. Okay. I'm also, my phone's on Do Not Disturb a lot during the day, especially on days where I'm creating. So nobody can reach me right now at all. And they're very well aware of that. Somebody who does not respect my boundaries, I communicate that with them. And then if they continuously do it, I no longer allow them in my energy space. It's as simple as that. Okay. By the way, my boundaries are set for my friends, my family, my clients, my coworkers, and my family. They all know it. There's no exception to these rules at all. So what you must do, obviously, is figure out your values before you set these boundaries, okay? Also, what's really important is establishing clear communication. No, you do not have to send out a group email. Hey, everybody, I now have boundaries. Wrong. Somebody tries to contact you during family time, you communicate that boundary. Look, every Sunday from 12 until 6, I will not be available. I'm spending time with my family. Boom. That person now knows your boundary. You've communicated it clearly, and then it's up to them how to react. Either they're going to respect that and not call you during those hours at all, or they're going to give you pushback. And that's for something for you to observe and then do what you will with it, right? So if this person is consistently giving you pushback or calling you during family time, although you've communicated probably 10 times that this is not, you're crossing my boundary, that behavior is not going to change. They're going to consistently cross that boundary. And it's up to you then to to actually remove that person from your life. Okay. So once you establish these healthy boundaries, you must establish clear, not perfect, communication. After you establish this clear communication, consistency will build trust, okay? So let's say your boss emails you at 8 p.m. and says, oh, I need this done. Your boundary is, I will do work on work hours. What happens is if you respond to your boss saying, oh, great, I received the project, I'll have it over to you by tomorrow morning. And then you fulfill that promise, your boss is going to trust that your boundaries are not interfering with your daily habits, right? So he's going to say, great, he's not available until tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow morning comes and you deliver. Next time they ask you to do something after hours, if they do, they know they can wait till tomorrow to receive whatever it is they're asking for. Okay, so consistency over time will build trust. So something I want to note really quickly here, it's really important to understand, is that people in your life forever are going to be a little bit confused once you set this boundary. And that's their own personal reasons. That's not your problem at all. So some people may resist your boundaries, right? That may actually change your relationship. And I want you to be prepared for that, because what happens here is it actually exposes the health of your relationships. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. You are going to realize who respects you and who does not. Once you set these boundaries, it's going to expose the health of your current relationships. So as I wrap up the end of this conversation, I wanted to leave you with this. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. That is why your internal dialogue needs to be as positive as possible. So if you are speaking to yourself negatively, or you would never speak to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, I really want you to go back and watch my video on why it is so important to have positive internal dialogue. A lot of people think that boundaries are set for other people or to teach you about relationships. I do not. I personally believe that once you set a boundary, it's all about you. You are going to understand how your relationship is with yourself. It's going to expose the relationship you have to yourself. So think about this for a moment. Every single day, your actions are answering questions that your conscious mind may never ask. Do I believe in my time is valuable? Do I believe my energy is valuable? Do I believe I deserve respect? Do I trust myself enough to honor myself and do what is ever healthy for me? So once you set boundaries for yourself, these questions are going to be answered. Okay. You could say, I value myself all day long, but if your actions don't show that, your brain is going to tell a different story. So I truly believe that boundaries are way more than communication. It's about integrity, not integrity in a moral sense, more integrity in a psychological sense. Okay. So you are confirming to yourself your self-worth by setting these boundaries. You're examining the relationship you have with yourself when you set these boundaries. And that is the most important thing, understanding your relationship with yourself. It'll help you set these boundaries. When you set these boundaries, let me tell you something. It is screaming, I have self-respect. And what happens there is you automatically command respect from other people. Thank you so much for being here. You guys, I am so grateful for all of you. If you received anything from today's video, please feel free to drop a comment. Let me know. Are you struggling with setting boundaries? What is it that you're struggling with? Let me know so I can help you. I'll make videos. Boundaries setting has become something a lot of people struggle with, and I want to teach you guys it is so important, and you are absolutely worthy and capable of setting boundaries. I promise it's life-changing, okay? If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you endlessly for being here. I just love you guys so much. And also stay tuned. I have a big announcement coming, and I can't wait to share. Thanks again. Have a wonderful weekend, and all the love to you.